Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. This is the first roundtable in our new series, Plugging into State and Federal Funding, presented by Clean Fuels Michigan. My name is Jane McCurry, and I'm the Executive Director of Clean Fuels Michigan. And we are a nonprofit trade association dedicated to advancing the clean fuel industries here in Michigan and beyond. I want to do a quick thank you at the top to all of our members that make our work possible. We have almost 30 members across the industry that are really leading in clean mobility, and it's due to their support that we're able to put on events like this. So thank you very much to any members that are in the room. And if you're not yet a member of Clean Fuels Michigan, we would love to chat with you about that as well. So please reach out if you're interested. A little bit about the opportunity today. So again, this is our Plugging into Clean Mobility Funding Roundtable. Today, we're focusing on opportunities within the state of Michigan that are already available to leverage for clean mobility projects. So I'll go into a little bit of the background for our topic today, and then we have an awesome slate of panelists. We have Lauren Matar from Next Energy, Irene Queen with Eagle, and Kevin Marin with the Michigan Infrastructure Office. And they're going to give overviews of programs that they are the program managers for that can be leveraged today to help support projects in Michigan. And then we'll have plenty of time to go into some open discussions so that you can get your specific questions answered. A little bit more about the opportunity. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act are both very large federal bills that have passed in the last 2 years that offer billions of dollars for projects for not only clean mobility, but other industries as well. And so there's a huge opportunity for Michigan communities and Michigan businesses to harness those opportunities and capitalize on this chance to invest in access to clean mobility, in economic development and jobs. And we're really seeing that Michigan stakeholders are leading in this transformation to a clean transportation economy. So we want to make sure that you all have access to the information about these funding opportunities and the right partners to really take advantage of them. We know that navigating federal bills and funding opportunities is really complicated. So we want to be here as a resource to, again, help you find the right partners, help navigate those opportunities, and help put all the pieces together so that we can take advantage of this moment here in Michigan. And so this roundtable is one way that Clean Fuels Michigan does that. The goals for the roundtable is to learn more about funding opportunities and how we can best implement them in Michigan, as well as find ways to work together to achieve our common goals and deploy great projects across the state. So again, today is the first in our series. We're focusing on state funding opportunities today. And with that, I will hand it over to, actually, let me do housekeeping real quick. We're going to record the presentation. We're recording right now. We're going to stop the recording when we get to the discussion part of the meeting so that we can have more of a free-flowing discussion. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. If we were in person, we would be handing around business cards. Feel free to use this space just like you would if we were doing an in-person networking event. So you can drop your email, your LinkedIn, whatever in the chat so you can connect with folks after the call. This is just a regular Zoom meeting to facilitate that discussion period. So please, in respect to our panelists, stay muted when they are speaking. And then we would love to see and hear you during that discussion section. So feel free to turn on your video and unmute and join the conversation after the presentations. And now I will hand it over to Lauren, who's going to kick us off with an overview of the mobility funding platform.
All right, thank you so much, Jane. Let me get my screen shared here. Okay, looks like you should be able to see my screen now. Perfect. All right, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lauren Matar and I am a program manager with Next Energy here and very excited to talk about the Michigan Mobility Funding Platform. Find my cursor. Here we are. So what is the Michigan Mobility Funding Platform, which is also known by its acronym of MMFP? It's a grant program that's sponsored by the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification within the Michigan Economic Development Corporation that provides grants to mobility and electrification solutions that are looking to deploy within the state of Michigan. Since September of 2021, over 40 grants have been awarded. Over $3 million worth of grants have been awarded. And the state is very excited about expanding and continuing this program this upcoming year into 2023. As I mentioned, I work at Next Energy, which is actually a nonprofit organization based here in Detroit, and we support the MMFP program as program managers and grant administrators for the state. So we partner very closely with the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification and MEDC to help support this grant program, and we are the program managers. We also help with project generation and support the application and review process throughout the program. So it is funded and sponsored by the state, by OFME and MEDC, but Next Energy is very grateful and proud to be a partner of the grant program, and that's how we are involved. The MMFP program focuses on 3 key areas. As I mentioned, it's very broadly focused on mobility and electrification, but then within that, 3 key focus areas, sustainable futures, equitable futures, and multimodal transportation. So really looking to award grants to projects and programs that are focused in these key areas, looking to help create and sustain Michigan as somewhere where mobility is a strength and continues to be a strength, but also keep the sustainable and equitable and as well multimodal aspects in mind as we approach that. There are 2 different types of grants that are awarded within the program. The first is a real-world deployment grant, and this is when your technology or solution is at a readiness level to be deployed within Michigan, within a community within Michigan. So that can be deployed throughout the state. We have some deployments up in the UP. We have some local in the Detroit area, which is where I'm based, and truly throughout the state. In order to do a real world deployment, you must have a local Michigan partner. That could be a public or a private partner. And you must be meeting a local need or use case for the community. And that's one of the big focus areas, is what needs are you solving and what use cases are you solving with this project with the local community. For those organizations that, especially for those organizations that would like to deploy in Michigan that are not based in Michigan, we do challenge and ask for a growth in Michigan plan. So if you come into Michigan to deploy your technology, then what are your ultimate goals for growing within the state and continuing to be a presence here? And then one final requirement is that you must have some matching funds. There is no set required percentage of the budget that must be matched versus what is awarded in the grant, but there is a requirement that some of the project budget is covered with matching funds and it's not 100% grant funded. The other type of deployment is a test site deployment. So that would be if your technology is not necessarily ready to go out into the community, but you're looking to engage with one of these Michigan-based test sites to test out or further develop your technology. And there are a number and variety of various test sites throughout the state that are supported in this program that the state is very excited about. In the case of deploying at a test site, we would ask that you engage with the test site to help scope out the project and understand maybe what the cost of deploying or testing or renting, for example, track time or usage time at the site would be, and then apply for a grant to receive some funding to cover the testing cost at that site. So those are kind of the 2 various types of grants that are awarded through the MMFP program. One is testing at a test site, and the other is truly out in the community deploying within Michigan. I included a couple of different examples of past projects to show the variety of different projects that have been awarded. Like I said at the top, there have been over 30 different projects awarded. So these 4 here, sorry, are just a very small sample of the different types of projects. But as you can see, we've got multimodal focus here with a charging station with the scooters that's deployed in Flint, Michigan. There was a drone solution that was helping to transport critical medical supplies with the Beaumont Health Spectrum Health Systems using drones, which is very cool. There have been a number of app-based solutions as well, and this one specifically highlighted here was an engagement with the Western Washtenaw County transit system to help support folks with disabilities to access and ride hail and use the public transportation system a lot easier. And then this larger picture is a deployment at one of the test sites, the Detroit Smart Parking Lab test site, where the organization Witricity was testing and proving and demonstrating their wireless EV charging equipment and technology. So truly across the board in terms of multimodal, equitable, as you can see, and throughout various locations within the state of Michigan. I also wanted to include, just as an FYI, some historical information. In the past, the testing site deployments have ranged anywhere from 10K to 100,000K, or 100,000, sorry. In the real world deployments, grants have ranged anywhere from 40K up to 150. That can vary depending on the scope of the project, the use case, the partnership, what matching funds you're bringing to the table, et cetera. So that's certainly not a set in stone number or range and can be flexible, but just for some context, those are the sort of range of the awards that have happened in the past. In order to apply for a grant, this is kind of the process. I know there's a little bit of heavy on the words here, but before you would apply to a grant, recommendation from our side is to engage with either your local partners if you're engaging in a community and going after the real world deployment, or engage directly with the test site to help develop the project scope and really understand what the budget, what the timeline, et cetera, would be. Identify matching funds as those are required. Like I mentioned, there's no set amount or set percentage that needs to happen, but making sure you've secured and identified those matching funds up front. Then the application itself, there's an online application. There's one separate for the test sites and a separate one for the real world deployment. So there are two different application forms. Once the application is submitted, it is reviewed initially by the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification team. There is a review committee that then does evaluations after that. And then once you've reached that stage of the process, they enter into one-on-one interviews and discussion before being awarded. So just an FYI what that process might look like. The real world deployments are reviewed every 4 months. And on the website that I'm going to link here in a second, it has the exact dates and timelines on there. The test site applications are reviewed on a continuous basis. So as they are, as applications come in, they are reviewed and responded to. So that one doesn't have set quarters or every 4 months being reviewed. Just some advice based on some previous applications. A strong application, certainly a local need is being met. It's a well-scoped project with a detailed budget. You have Michigan partners with letters of support from those partners that they're committed to the project and engaged as partners. And then again, as I mentioned, tangible growth goals within the state of Michigan. As of course, this is funded by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Growth within Michigan is a critical aspect of the review process. And really that's all I had, just a very brief overview of what the program looks like. I linked on here to various websites to read more. One directly from the MEDC, and then as well you can read a little bit more about what Next Energy specifically does on our own website. I put both links for the real world deployment application and then the test site grant application, and then I also put my own email address. Very happy to help answer questions or work with you to develop maybe a project scope or see if there's a good fit for your organization and potentially project within Michigan using the MMFP program. So that is all I have to share. And I believe I'm turning it over to Irene now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lauren. I just wanted to quickly add, I'll make sure that all of those links in your slides get out to attendees. So if anyone didn't happen to capture that, we'll make sure to follow up with you so you have that information. All right, Irene is here with the Michigan Eagle office to tell us more about DARA and the fuel transformation program. So Irene, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, I think I'm displaying the wrong Let's see, the wrong screen, right?
Oh, I don't see anything right now, actually.
You don't? Okay. It's telling me that I'm sharing. So let's see, display settings.
Do you want me to go ahead and pop your slides up?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And if you can get a little bit closer to your mic too.
Oh, okay. I will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So as Jane stated in the intro, there's a lot of federal funding that is and will be available over the next 4+ years. Yeah, just let's start on that side. And so I'm going to tell you about two state programs that have set a foundation for have successfully set a foundation to get some of that funding through a multi-stakeholder collaboration. So you can advance now. So the first program is the Fuel Transformation Program. And I'm just going to move this over. So there we go. The Fuel Transformation Program, which is from the Volkswagen Settlement Funds, and the goals of the programs are to reduce NOx emissions and reduce diesel emissions from school buses, and to increase adoption of zero and alt fuel vehicles and equipment. Next. This is the outline of how the Volkswagen Settlement Funds were allocated. And Michigan's in the process of, like, the first category is we've already done that one. The second category, part of that, it was broken down into 3 categories. So we're getting ready to award an electric ferry project and a shore power project. And when those grants are signed, then we can share that information. The school bus information has already, the school bus awards have already been distributed, and then the light duty ZEV supply equipment, that is ongoing. And we did not go for the DERA option, which it's sort of complicated, and that just gives extra money for the states if they're going to do that one. We decided not to do that. And then the other is program administration costs. So that's how the Michigan's award from the Volkswagen settlement is broken down. Next. So far, the Fuel Transformation Program from the settlement has awarded just under $18 million for a total of 38 grants. And if we have time later, I might be able to click on that dashboard on the bottom and show you some of the details of the projects, but I'm not going to do that right now because this is a live dashboard, and it will, like, if you click on the boxes or the circles, it'll give you more details about each of those projects. These square ones are they're broken down into electric and diesel and propane, and it'll give you those details on those when you go to the live dashboard. Next. So in process, the electric ferry boat and the shore power, we didn't get any applications for electric freight switchers. We were so close, but we didn't. At the last minute, they withdrew their application. But we're hopeful to get the ferry and the shore power projects implemented soon. And then there's a new RFP that will be opening on March 1st, and that is for airport ground support equipment, forklifts, and port cargo handling equipment. And right now, $5 million is allocated for that, but there may be more depending on how much is awarded for the previous RFP. Next. The next program is the Michigan Clean Diesel Program, and this is through federal funding from the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, commonly known as DERA. And Michigan has, through this program, has 375,960 available. Matching funds range from 40% to 65%, depending on the project. There's a higher reimbursement if you're just doing the engine replacement as opposed to a vehicle replacement. And that RFP is open through March 31st with the project to be completed by August 31st. It's a pretty short period of time. So if it is an electric project, EPA has been pretty flexible with us if we need to do an extension on that. Next. And the opportunity, the eligibility for this is broad. That's just a list of all of the entities that are eligible.
You need a snack?
And I'm sorry, was that a question? One of the important things is that the applicant and the partner entity must have continuous and ongoing business operations, and that include a physical location in Michigan. Next. These are some of the requirements through the Clean Diesel program. The vehicle has to be operational, owned and operated 2 years prior to upgrade, 3 years of remaining life, highway usage. There's some flexibility on the highway usage when it comes to the school buses, because during COVID, the school buses were not being used. So they can use mileage from 2019. The non-road, locomotive, and marine, those vary hours of usage, and some of these, whether it's a vehicle or equipment, if there's an issue with meeting the requirements of mileage or hours, you can combine two vehicles or two pieces of equipment and decommission two of those and replace them with one new one. So that's one way to do that if you can't meet the hour and mileage requirement. Next, please. So this is the interesting part, because the two programs together, they formed a foundation for Michigan receiving the second highest clean school bus award in the nation. Michigan was awarded 138 electric buses, 25 districts, and over $54 million. And this is a list of the districts. 3 of these which are in the UP. Next, please. So a little bit of background. So in 2019, Michigan put together a pilot, electric school bus pilot of 17 electric school buses, and that was through the Fuel Transformation Program. So because Michigan had these 17 buses on the road for several years, they had experience as early adopters of electric school buses. And because it was a consortium, they were communicating with each other to share like the issues, the benefits, and what it was like to actually operate these, and interactions with utilities. So they were kind of ahead of the curve from many other states for working together in getting electric school buses on the road. Next. And this is one of the reasons that that it was successful, was this multi-stakeholder collaboration. There were champions from pupil transportation, the bus drivers. I mean, bus drivers were willing to go and talk to other districts about their experiences, schools, nurses. There was the asthma and allergy Michigan chapter, air quality advocates, state partners. The governor's office did a blast email, the coalition reached out to representatives, senators, through the DARA and the VW program. I did an outreach with Michigan Environmental Education to promote the use of these school buses as mobile laboratories that they can identify and advocate for them being K through STEM learning resources. The utilities were involved. There were clean energy, clean mobility, and environmental health advocates. And this list on the bottom of the slide, that's just part of the stakeholder group. And EPA Region 5 was also very much involved in this outreach coalition. Next slide, please. So the award was over $54 million, and 40% of the buses, including those in Ypsilanti, Dearborn, Pontiac, were in the National Ambient Air Quality non-attainment area and non-attainment counties, which are also high asthma burden areas. Next, please. To date, the two programs combined, the Michigan Fuel Transformation Program and the Clean Diesel Program, has provided grants for 31 electric vehicles so far. These include step vans, snowplow, semi-trucks, street sweepers, refuse recycling, and school buses. And that's for a lifetime total of 6,717 metric tons of GHGs reduced. Next, please. Looking ahead, we know that there are going to be more funds for medium and heavy duty vehicles. They are class 6 and 7 at this point. And so far in Michigan, from these grants, we have funded 3 electric semis, 2 through the fuel transformation project, and 1 through the Clean Diesel program. And that the one on the right I'm showing is a class 8 that was funded through the Clean Diesel program. And so in conclusion, when the BIL funding is announced for the medium and heavy duty vehicles, Michigan's going to have experience in getting these vehicles on the road, and also background in developing a support coalition for outreach and education. And that vehicle that you showed, I showed on the previous slide, is the first Nikola Class 8 fully electric truck in Michigan, and that operates in its base is in Livonia, and then it delivers into Southeast Detroit. So hopefully, when the new funds are announced, we'll be able to also have a good portion of those as well. And these are
Excellent.
the links to the programs, and if you want to stay informed on when these grants become available, you can sign up at Michigan's Grants and Loans listserv.
Great. Thank you so much, Irene.
Welcome.
And again, we'll make sure that all these slides get sent out so that folks have the information and email addresses on hand. Now I'm going to hand it over to Kevin Marin with the Michigan Infrastructure Office to tell us a little bit about what they have cooking to help support projects in Michigan in winning some of those infrastructure funds.
Thanks so much, Jane. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody else for joining us today. And of course, special thanks to Clean Fuels for the invitation and just bringing everybody together. It's fantastic from the infrastructure office's point of view to see this kind of engagement happening, as it's really going to help us down the road, make sure that Michigan really does take full advantage of all this funding available. So I'm with the Michigan Infrastructure Office. I am the Deputy Infrastructure Officer. Specifically in my role, I focus more on our energy and environmental aspects of infrastructure. So that the asset classes under my purview would include water, energy, broadband, and I'm forgetting one, electric vehicles. And on the other side of the office, we have one of my colleagues handles more of our physical transportation infrastructure. So your roads and your bridges and, majority of the bipartisan infrastructure law funding there actually. Our office was created as a joint project between the Office of the Governor and DTMB. So we kind of live in both worlds. The benefits of which are that our office has a lot of convening ability to really bring folks together and kind of streamline a lot of the decisions around going after federal funding, which really was the point of creating our office to begin with. So again, from our point of view, we're just so thrilled to see, the great work being done by groups like Clean Fuels, Next Energy, and of course our friends at Eagle. I do hope to see some hydrogen trucks potentially in that slide deck that I pulled up for us next time. So one of the things we're really working on this year. But I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the funding opportunities our office can assist with and what we're making available to organizations within Michigan to make sure that you're able to get the support you need to go after these federal funding opportunities. So our office, as I said, we were created to really make sure that Michigan is going after the federal funding available under the BIL and the IRA, getting as much of it as effectively, efficiently, and quickly as possible. And the other aspects of our office really are oriented around streamlining permitting. So we are releasing an initiative that will kind of streamline the permitting for some of these larger projects. For the first phase, we're focusing on the $50 million and above projects, really trying to make sure that we're cutting that red tape as quickly as we can. What I'm here today about is our technical assistance program. So I don't have any slide decks or anything to show you. Apologies there. The reason being is that this is getting very close to launch, and we don't, this will be probably a sneak peek for most folks as to what you can expect to see from this program. So thrilled to introduce you to it today. The Michigan Infrastructure Office is going to be making funds available to eligible recipients, those being our local and tribal governments, road commissions, metropolitan planning organizations, economic development districts, regional transportation planning organizations, and our transit agencies across the state. These funds are available to you through your planning organizations and your economic development districts to coordinate with the state and make use of our qualified contractors. Qualified contractors here, meaning kind of pre-approved contractors to help provide this technical assistance. And these can all be found online through the MyDeal program, one word, MyDeal. So assuming that you have a project in mind as an eligible recipient, you would come to the state and we would have you fill out a template, an application of sorts, giving us information on what project you're looking at, what kind of help you need. Is this planning? Is this implementation? Are you looking for staff time? Are you looking for guidance? All of this is available to you under this program. I should also state that, as I mentioned, we're getting close to launching. We see this becoming available to folks maybe in the next few weeks or the next month at the latest. So once you fill out that application, we will go ahead and approve it, review it, and then approve it, I should say, and get you in touch, with the correct contracting organization. Now, the breakdown for these funds does depend on your region, as well as your metropolitan planning organization or your economic development corporation that you're working with, your district. And it is tied to population in the various regions. We have roughly 5 million available, and we're planning for about 62 grants across the state that we can provide assistance with for these discretionary BIL and IRA programs. Comes out to about $80,000 per grant that is available. And again, as I said, this is tied to population size of the various regions, making sure that we are kind of tying these funds to where we see the equivalent levels of demand. So, down in Metro Detroit, and again, these are early numbers. We're working to refine this, and some of this is subject to how much funding ends up being available. But we're seeing maybe 20 to 30 applications for Metro Detroit that we could help support. And some of our smaller regions, depending on the locality, it could be, one made available for the area with the understanding that they may not need more than that. So as I said, this could be project planning, grant identification, grant application writing and submittal, really things that we're finding many of our local partners don't have the resources or the capacity to go after themselves. And we're trying to cross that, or kind of cross that bridge and make sure that you have the ability to go after some of these funding opportunities that you may not have had previously. Many things are eligible to be reimbursed here, including, I should say, costs for the MPO staff working on this, Metropolitan Planning Organizations. They would, of course, pay the contractors and then submit those receipts to our office, and we would go ahead and reimburse them for their time and their efforts around this. So broad strokes, that is sort of the outline of our technical assistance program. Really, as I said, meant to make sure that we are building up capacity across the state to continue making Michigan really a leader in going after these, as we see it, once in a lifetime, once in a generation funding opportunities to make sure the state really is taking full advantage of what's available. And as I said, hopefully getting some cleaner transportation on the roads here. A couple of hydrogen trucks, as I said earlier, would be fun.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I am curious, Kevin, if there's any kind of project that you're particularly interested in funding. And of course, we would love to hear about something that's mobility focused. Hearing hydrogen trucks, I don't know if there's anything else that you're really excited about.
Yeah, I mentioned hydrogen trucks a couple times because that is where I spend a lot of my time these days, heading up some of our energy programs we're focused on. It is a little bit like drinking from a fire hose in our office, I will say. It seems like every day we're seeing new awards coming to the state. I know Irene pulled up the, I forget the exact number offhand, I should know this, the number of school buses Michigan was awarded. We were thrilled to be number 2 in the country getting those electric school buses. So that's fantastic. I think another big one that was a big award a while ago that I'm pretty excited about is the removal of the I-375 in and around Detroit. We see that having obviously implications for mobility using the highways, but it has pretty impressive implications for the neighborhoods as well. As I said, I work a lot with hydrogen, so I'm very interested in kind of seeing some progress decarbonizing that heavy duty transport specifically. We've been having a lot of conversations with trucking companies, various OEMs, and even railroads around uses for hydrogen in heavy duty transport.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Irene and Lauren, I wonder if you want to answer that question too. If there's anything in particular that you're really excited to fund this year, or certain types of projects that you feel like are popping up that are especially innovative.
I would say from the perspective of the Michigan Mobility Funding Platform, definitely seeing a lot of trends in EV charging solutions and different types of projects there, fleet transition type projects. Definitely are interested in focusing on multimodal as well, and certainly rural transportation. So kind of across the board there, it's not entirely specific, but that's kind of where things are trending and what the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification is looking at as well.
Yeah, that's great. What about you, Irene?
Well, for the clean diesel program, it was very exciting to get an application for the electric semi, because that was the first time that that particular program in Michigan funded an electric semi, and they got it on the road really quickly. And then also through that program, it was the first electric school bus, not the first electric school bus in Michigan, but the first electric school bus through the DARA program in Michigan. And the other project that was exciting was a tugboat replacement. It wasn't electric, but it was great to replace like this ancient tugboat that was just spewing black smoke everywhere, and to replace those engines. That was really fun.
Great. I have one more question, and then I'm going to turn it over to our audience. So get your questions ready. You can drop them in the chat or raise your hand. Lauren, I wanted to ask you one more thing. Kevin and Irene touched a little bit on how their programs are supporting some of those federal infrastructure dollars. Curious if the Michigan Mobility Funding Platform has either shifted or grown given the federal infrastructure funding, and just if you can give a little insight to the audience on how they could leverage your program to get other dollars too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Michigan Mobility Funding Platform specifically didn't necessarily change as a result of the federal funding. However, certainly are interested in supporting projects that align with those goals of the federal funds, and then potentially one use case that we see is that are you able to do maybe a smaller scale project with the MMFP program, either at a test site or real world deployment, and then utilize that to prove out your technology or prove out and then apply for some larger federal funds. So that's one case. The state is definitely interested in continuing supporting the MMFP program. They're continuing to fund it into this year, but no direct funds from the federal program went specifically into MMFP.